Towards the south we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, and locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Good evening. It is 9 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In the Big Opinion, with talk of peace deals in Ukraine gathering pace, the Donald Trump effect is already being felt. Far from being a monster, the Donald might just save the world. In the big story, is assisted dying a sin? I'll be asking the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II. Also tonight, the chaos of sickness benefits, which are trapping people they're supposed to help, and they're bankrupting the country. Fraser Nelson, one of the country's finest journalists, tells me about his latest Channel 4 film all about this growing national scandal. And in an hour's time, in My Take at 10, as the BBC is engulfed in yet another scandal, this time surrounding MasterChef star Greg Wallace, we get news that the licence fee is to rise to an eye-watering £174.50 from April. Is it still worth the money? I'll be giving my verdict at 10. With me tonight for ringside action, we have author and academic Dr. Lisa McKenzie, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and writer and broadcaster Peter Lloyd. So 2 hours of big opinion, big debate and big... Mark Dolan tonight is your perfect Saturday night in. I'll be dealing with the BBC in no uncertain terms at 10 o'clock. But first, the news headlines and Joe Casper.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. It's 9:01. I'm Joe Casper. Here are your top stories from the GB Newsroom. Some breaking news for you this evening. The Sunday Times is reporting a BBC executive warned Greg Wallace about his alleged behaviour in 2017, saying it was unacceptable and cannot continue. Meanwhile, the Sunday Telegraph quotes a former producer saying she raised concerns about the MasterChef presenter but was dismissed. And The Observer says a letter sent by a number of women to the BBC in 2022 reported multiple allegations of inappropriate behaviour by the host but did not prompt further investigation. It comes after the MasterChef producer Banijay UK announced city law firm Lewis Silkin will investigate alleged misconduct by Mr Wallace. The BBC said, if issues were raised with us, we have robust processes in place to deal with them swiftly and appropriately. Mr Wallace's lawyers insist the claims are entirely false, saying the suggestion that Wallace, who has presented the popular BBC One cooking show alongside John Turturro since 2005, engages in behaviour of sexually harassing nature was entirely false. A memorial service has been held today for First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond. His wife of more than 40 years and supporters arranged a remembrance service for him on St Andrew's Day. Mr Salmond died last month in North Macedonia at the age of 69. He was at a conference when he suffered a heart attack and was buried in a private family ceremony near his home in Aberdeenshire at the end of October. A murder investigation has been launched after the death of a woman in her 60s in South London. Officers were called to an address in Surrey Quays at about 3 p.m. on Friday after reports that a woman had been stabbed, the Metropolitan Police said. The London Ambulance Service and London's Air Ambulance also attended, and the woman was taken to hospital where she later died. A 61-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in custody. Football action now, and there were wins for Brentford, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth in the Premier League today. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace scored a last-minute equaliser to draw 1-1 at home to Newcastle. In the evening kick-off, Arsenal thumped West Ham 5-2, and England ladies ended USA's 9-game winning streak with a goalless draw in a friendly at Wembley. Now to a story that will sweeten your day. A man has been awarded £2 in compensation after he complained about a smooth Mars bar. Harry Seeger from Buckinghamshire picked up the chocolate treat at a service station in Oxfordshire, but contacted manufacturers Mars Wrigley when he discovered it didn't have its signature ripple. In a letter, the firm apologised for his experience and closed a £2 voucher, but offered no explanation. Mr Seeger said, I think £2 is great. It will be 2 free Mars bars. Maybe they could have sent me more, but I'm not ungrateful. Totally worth the time and effort. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Joe Casper. Now back to Mark Dolan and that pink shirt.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Nice to have Joe Casper with us this evening. He returns in an hour's time. Well, look, a really busy show. You might want to pour yourself a stiff one tonight because we've got lots of stories to get through, including the absolute disaster of the sickness benefits regime, which is bankrupting the country. We'll hear from the brilliant journalist Fraser Nelson on that one. And in my take at 10, the BBC Greg Wallace crisis deepens. All of that to come. But first, my big opinion. Well, who'd have thunk it? The bad orange man strikes again. Donald Trump isn't even in the White House, and talk of a swift end to the conflict in Ukraine has gathered momentum. Volodymyr Zelensky said last night that he was willing to cede territory to Russia to end the war, adding that after a ceasefire was agreed, Kyiv could negotiate the return of the territory in the east that is currently under Russian control. Wow. This follows comments Zelensky made after the US election results on the 5th of November, saying that a diplomatic solution to this awful conflict, which has claimed the lives of 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers, will now happen sooner. But I'm so confused. I thought Donald Trump was this terrible monster that was going to destroy America and the world. Well, it seems not. Since that seismic landslide on November the 5th, Mexico have verbally agreed to block migrants from crossing the US southern border. Major companies have given up their woke policies, and the US stock market has gone through the roof. Meanwhile, Israel lays down arms with Hezbollah, and Hamas want a peace deal in Gaza. Imagine. The Trump effect has also been felt here as well, with a sense that we in Britain can now reject hated political correctness, the idea of 100 genders, people announcing their pronouns, race grifters, and the demonisation of Western values and history. It can all go in the big fat dustbin of history. Even Keir Starmer spoke out against the madness of open borders this week. Better late than never, Sir Keir. Talking common sense feels safer since the return of the orange one, a man tangoed at birth. I'll be honest, we all had a very lucky escape that the woke Vice President Kamala Harris didn't win, especially following her extraordinary Thanksgiving video this week, in which she looks to have overindulged in the cooking sherry. Talk about a stuffed turkey, gobble gobble.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th.
Did I ever tell you that I love you? You're like a brother to me. Blimey, it's like your dad's new girlfriend after a long afternoon in Wetherspoons. And thank God the decrepit Joe Biden is about to leave office, given that he was responsible for the disastrous Afghanistan surrender and has sought to ramp up the rhetoric in Ukraine with talk of further missile strikes in a move that can only provoke the Russian bear. Did the Democratic Party want to have a forever war? Did they have a financial interest in that happening? You tell me. But arch-capitalist Donald Trump has only ever spoken of peace. Tell me one thing he says here that isn't good, that isn't moral, that you don't agree with.
We have never been closer to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction on a scale unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Nothing is more important than avoiding that nightmare. We will avoid it, but we need new leadership. Every day this proxy battle in Ukraine continues, we risk global war. We must be absolutely clear that our objective is to immediately have a total cessation of hostilities. All shooting has to stop. This is the central issue. We need peace without delay.
Now, I ought to add that Donald clearly fell asleep under the sunbed for that particular video. But here's the point. The narrative of Donald Trump being Hitler 2.0 doesn't really cut the mustard, given that he's the only woke post-war president that didn't start a single conflict whilst in office. Look, he's not perfect. Donald Trump is a narcissist, a convicted criminal, and an election denier. But unlike Joe Biden, at least his brain works correctly. And unlike Kamala Harris, at least he hasn't got a loyalty card at Majestic Wine. I'm feeling optimistic. On first impressions, at least, President-elect Trump will make the world a safer and better place. That's right. The future's bright. The future's orange. OK, folks, your thoughts on that? gbnews.com/your say. Will Donald Trump make the world a safer place? First up, tonight's top pundits, we have author and academic Dr. Lisa Mackenzie, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and fearless writer and broadcaster Peter Lloyd. Really good to see all three of you.
You too.
Lisa, let's talk about Donald Trump.
Go on.
I don't think he's a good human being, but I think he could be a very good president.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I'm not sure about... I don't know anymore what a good politician would look like. I'm so sort of... I don't know, I feel so sort of...
punch drunk?
Well, yeah, but also...
You've got no faith in any of them?
No, honestly, I really don't after this week. I feel absolutely hopeless about the will of a politician. You know, I'm not sure what any of them doing. Do I think Donald Trump, well, he's going to be better than Biden, you know, of course.
Why do you say that?
Just because I think Biden, I don't know, he didn't do anything. He just sort of sat back, allowed things to happen. He pulled out of Afghanistan. It caused chaos. It's caused, the ripple has gone throughout the world. That has really caused chaos throughout the world. And even today, you know, sort of what's happening in the Middle East today is, you know, it kind of caught on.
Well, lots of bad things happened on his watch.
Yeah.
The disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, the invasion of Ukraine, and October the 7th. Many suggest that might not have happened if Trump was in the White House at the time.
I think there's a fear around Trump. I think there's a definite fear around Trump. Because I was just sort of saying, when Biden had won, there wasn't sort of a rush to be his friend. You know, we've got every politician in the world now wanting to get Trump on side, which is interesting because they didn't do that with Biden, did they?
Yeah. No, I mean, Peter, if the war in Ukraine ends, let's say, within the next 3 months, do Donald Trump's critics deserve an apology? Should they make an apology, I should say?
They should make an apology, absolutely. But of course, knowing the Liberal left, they will never do that. They would never admit defeat or that they were wrong. They would never self-correct or analyse their own behaviour because that's just what they do.
They'd probably call the peace deal a sellout or something, wouldn't
Exactly. But, you know, this is really unprecedented. Trump isn't even in office yet, and he's already facilitating change. But we really shouldn't be surprised by this. Back in 2009, Trump brokered an unprecedented peace deal between Israel and Sudan. He did another one with Israel and Emirates, then another one with Israel and Bahrain. So he's got form for doing this.
He also was the first US president to cross into North Korean soil to engage with Kim Jong-un.
Right.
They exchanged affectionate written correspondence. He called President Xi his friend. He said he can do business with Putin. Now, these are international bad actors. They are actually a threat to our Western interests. But Trump tries to engage.
Right, and he's also a strong leader and a strong man, and he's unapologetic about his strength in that regard. And that's what America needs. America is you know, the tent pole of the free world, and we need somebody in there who's dynamic. You don't have to like him. He needs to be strong.
There's only one problem, Linda. He's a lunatic.
No, I'm not sure
that
I'm not sure that he's a lunatic, but he's in a position of great power where Ukraine is concerned, because both Putin and Zelensky both want to talk to him. So he is the power broker. So we know that. And we know also that he is the deal maker. He's different to most other politicians. He's motivated in a different way. He proceeds in a different way. I mean, I've worked for these guys. I worked for the CEO of Sky Television when it had to turn a huge corner earlier in the infancy of the channel. And I've watched these guys, these top businessmen work. They work in a totally different way to politicians. They get stuff done, and they're driven by the deal. It fuels them, and they like the deal making. They're not politicians who'll pull back because they're scared of saying something that holds them hostage to fortune, and they talk a lot without actually saying anything. A deal maker has to proceed in very firm terms, and I think that's what Trump is going to do in Ukraine.
Now, Lisa, there's a flip side to this. Trump's critics would argue that his uneven personality, his mercurial nature, is such that he's the guy that could start World War III.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't say that, but just because Trump is America first, that's what he is.
Yeah.
He's America first, which means he's looking after American interests and American people. That's what he does.
Whether he goes with Zelensky or Putin will be about who suits America's aims.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to go.
I think the people of America are going to be quite safe with him because he puts America first. That's what his game is.
That's what he won the election.
I'm not sure about the rest of the world, what he thinks about the rest of us.
If Trump is successful with the US economy, if he stops these wars, what does that mean, Peter, for British politics?
Well, really, it sets a precedent and kind of formulates a blueprint for what we need to do as a nation. Because if America, who are probably in a worse state of affairs than we are, if they can turn it around, there's no excuse for Starmer and his government not to be able to turn it around.
And what you can be sure of is that Trump will hold Keir Starmer's feet to the flames.
And so will Elon Musk, crucially.
Yeah.
There you go. Fantastic stuff. Fascinating, isn't it? Could Britain have a Trump-style revolution? Only question is, who would be the Donald Trump figure in this country?
Oh, I wonder who that might be.
Who's gaining power every day.
Let's make some calls. Mel, put some calls in. OK, folks, it is time now for our biggest and greatest British giveaway. That's right, this year it's your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away, and it could be yours. Here's how you get hands on 50 grand.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash. We've made loads of winners this year, and you could be our next with our biggest cash prize so far.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. It happens to people like me.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, folks, coming up in the big story, is assisted dying a sin? I'll be asking the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II next.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
This is Miss Universe fans hailing the end of wokeness and crediting the Trump effect after a biological woman, there's still some of them around apparently, has won the 2024 crown. She's Miss Denmark, because obviously the last decade, you know, it's just been a beast transgender smurfs from Papua New Guinea. They're the only people allowed to win any beauty contest, you know what I mean? You're not allowed to have any...
Some of the trans women have won these, you definitely wouldn't say no.
Honestly, I've seen some, but I've seen some of them that didn't, and some that, you know, were clearly just there out of, you know... Well,
have there been more than one trans woman who's won Miss? I didn't realise this.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got a chart at home. This one isn't trans. Victoria Kjær Thielvig, 21 of Denmark. Everything about that description says attractive.
Nazis. Okay, yeah. I have seen pictures of her. She is very attractive.
Yes.
She is.
Yes.
I don't know exactly how to put it, but she is kind of not retro or vintage or so. She's quite an old-fashioned notion of beauty, like just absolutely ice blue eyes, you know,
no penis.
Absolutely extraordinary, clear skin and gorgeous blonde hair. I mean, it's absolutely kind of mid-70s, you know,
Well, apparently the sanity's returned to the beauty pageant industry, so they can get back to, you know, sexualising 4-year-olds and promoting anorexia like they used to. So
there is that.
She will earn an estimated $250,000 annual salary working full-time as Miss Universe, and will live in a luxurious New York City apartment as she carries out her duties, which involve glass coffee tables and rich Saudi businessmen.
Glass coffee tables. And visiting other planets and solar systems and constellations, I would imagine, in Miss Universe.
Being concerned about animals.
Yes, absolutely, and wanting to bring about world peace. I miss those days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I said something
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, well, as we know, the assisted dying bill is making its way through Parliament. But what about the spiritual implications of this? Is it ungodly? Is it a sin to end someone's life prematurely? Who better to ask than Gavin Ashenden, who is the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II. Gavin, thank you so much for joining us. What is your reaction to this vote in the House of Commons that we've seen this week?
I'm incredibly depressed. I mean, I don't think I've been this depressed for a very long time. I hoped you were going to ask me if it's a sin, because for one of the very few times in an interview, I was going to be able to give a categorical answer and without any equivocation and say, yes, it is. I mean, the background to that is that we get forgiven our sins. That's the relationship we have with God. But it's best that the problem with sin is that it's usually a matter where we're invited not to hurt ourselves. And the problem with this is that we've gone after one very laudable aim, which is to prevent suffering. No one's against that. Everyone wants to do that. There are ways of doing it. Palliative care is the best way. We've chosen a shortcut, and so often shortcuts have unintended consequences. And the shortcut here is to give the state the power to kill us. There are all kinds of reasons why you don't want to trust the state, but it changes our relationship with the state. It changes our relationship with doctors who can become our killers instead of our healers. It changes our relationship with our families in case we find ourselves a burden on them and we feel obligated to step out of the room. It changes our relationship with our neighbours. It suddenly the ground under our feet is very thin indeed. And what I don't understand, as I've talked to people about it, is the trust they have in our legislators to frame laws that they think will keep us safe from abuse. There are 30 other legislatures. They've all got different laws. We're not going to follow any of theirs. We're going to write our own. I started life as a lawyer. I know how very difficult it is to frame good legislation. Do you know, we spent 700 hours arguing about whether we should kill foxes or not. We spent 6 hours arguing about whether we should give the state the power to kill human beings who are suffering. We're doing this all wrong.
Will this change in the law make life difficult for priests and other religious figures, faith leaders who are seeking to, support their congregation?
I think it'll set us at odds with society. Because what it does is it changes what we understand a human being to be. One of the reasons why you don't kill people is because we're made in the image of God. And therefore, all of us, if you like, has the stamp of holiness or preciousness. We belong to God before we belong to anybody else. That means you have to treat your neighbor with care and respect. That's where it comes from. That's the driving understanding. If you take that away, then we become utilitarian. We become consumer goods. There aren't enough children being born. That means a huge majority of elderly people. Well, get rid of some of the elderly people. Why don't you? It makes economic sense. It will balance the books. If human beings are just consumables, then you can do that kind of thing. But the problem is, by changing the law and by changing the rules and saying human beings are now people you can kill instead of people you must never kill, we're put into a different category. And that just changes everything in terms of our relationship with the state and everybody else. So in the sense, it puts all priests and bishops and Christians in a sense against the state, because the state has decided to downgrade the value of human beings. And we know that the only people who did that in the last 200 years were the Nazis. We've thrown that word around with casual abandon in the political. But for once, this is a Nazi act. They're the only people who did this.
Although, would it be God's will for people to suffer, which is, of course, what this legislation is all about, Gavin?
So this is a very good question, and for people who bandy these things around, there are two aspects of God's will. One is permissive and the other is prescriptive. So God has a prescriptive will. There are things he wants us to do. He wants us to forgive each other. He wants us to love each other. He wants us to act with honor. But God also permits things to go wrong, because that's the price of not making us robots. We could be made robots and be programmed, but then we'd lose our humanity. The cost of our humanity is allowing things to go wrong. God allows that. Death, suffering are things that God allows, but he tells us it's all worth it. And that's, there was a wonderful English mystic called Julian of Norwich in the 1400s. And she had these visions with God, and she said, really, there's the Black Death around, there's the Inquisition, life is a bit nasty. Are you sure you knew what you were doing when you gave us free will? And God says, in a way that's consistent with everything that Jesus teaches, you'll see it's worth it. So this is one of the reasons why human beings have hope. It's worth being alive. It's worth receiving our humanity. It's worth keeping going. It's worth putting up with the dreadful stuff. And one of the things that the Christians have experienced is very often God takes bad stuff and brings good out of it. And that includes suffering. I have a very close friend whose mother got brain cancer, and for the last 6 months of her life, she nursed her and loved her. And she says that those 6 months were the most precious months of her whole life, as she gave back to her mother something her mother gave to her, because her mother had been advised to abort her, hadn't aborted her, had brought her into life. Another daughter spent 6 months nursing her through brain cancer. Well, she could have taken a pill and cut the whole thing out, but actually, in the terms of the way we human beings work and the way we're built to love and care, that suffering had gold in it somewhere. Yeah. And that's why things are more complicated than the terribly able haute bourgeoisie who just want a life of convenience and say, I'm not going to risk any suffering. I want to under my way and my terms. But they make other people pay the price for it.
Dr. Ashenden, do stay with us. Let's bring in my pundits this evening if we can. Linda Jubilee, Peter Lloyd and Lisa McKenzie. Lisa, what's your view? Do you agree with Gavin Ashenden?
I do, actually. I'm an atheist. I'm an anarchist. I believe in human autonomy, but I also believe in community, family and love. I do believe that. So I am very much in agreement, actually. I'm quite surprised how much commonality there is between my anarchist, atheist principles and the principles of the church, actually.
How about you,
I'm
Linda?
an anarchist at heart.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. And I speak as someone whose mother is in end-stage palliative care right now, and she has been very, very sick with pulmonary fibrosis, terminal pulmonary fibrosis, for at least the last year. And me and my brothers and my cousins, we've all come together to be at her bedside. And for us, that's a really, really important process as a family. And only this week, I went to see my parish priest. I'm a Catholic, and I spoke to him about this. And really, the thing about this bill, which is so important, is it hits at the heart of humanity. It hits at the heart of civilization. The Hippocratic Oath says, first do no harm. And I think that this bill really, really upsets the relationship between the doctor and the patient a lot of the time. But the bill, to be specific, is ambiguous in its opening. It gives a 5-year review when I think there should be a review after the first year or maybe 2 years. It is not even precise about the administering of the lethal dose, which is done in a room without medical supervision. And I think, all in all, the bill, it just isn't safe enough. It doesn't prevent the possibility of coercion, and that's purely on a practical level. But on a spiritual level, yeah, I agree with everything that Gavin Ashenden has said.
Well, Peter, there are plenty of viewers and listeners to this show who have watched relatives suffer in the final stages of a serious and incurable disease. Why should their suffering be so prolonged?
Well, it doesn't need to be. And the irony of this debate is that we already have assisted dying in this country. We have hospices and we have palliative care. That is assisted dying. That is a humane way to manage end-of-life care. So we already have this issue sorted in this country, and everybody was comfortable with it until 5 minutes ago. And now suddenly everything has changed. And I just feel very uncomfortable. It smacks of propaganda, and I do not trust the state with anything, certainly not human life.
And can I say as well, I just think that rather than promote the bill for assisted dying, we should be enhancing palliative care.
Right.
Because although it
Absolutely.
exists, as Peter says, it's not in the best shape. I know that my mother was fortunate enough to get a palliative care bed in a nursing home, but there were only 6 beds in the whole area attached to a large
scandal.
hospital.
A national scandal. Gavin, briefly, if you can, you are the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II. Would it be betraying a confidence to ask you what she might have thought of this issue?
Well, I've become a Catholic. There are certain things we do know about the Queen. We know that she held to old-fashioned values, and one of the reasons why people loved her was because she wasn't swept along by fashion. This is a fashion. It's a fashion that diminishes humanity and devalues who we are. I don't think it's too much to say that it's not something that she would have favoured.
Gavin, it's been the greatest privilege to have you on the programme. Thank you so much for your wise counsel on this. My thanks to the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II and the editor of Catholic Unscripted, Dr. Gavin Ashenden. What a fascinating debate. Over to you. gbnews.com/your say. Now, the chaos of sickness benefits, which are trapping people they're supposed to help and threaten to bank the country, is something that we need to discuss. Fraser Nelson, one of the country's finest journalists, has made a new film about the growing scandal of sickness benefits. We'll debate that next.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the course of Sunday, we'll see some showery outbreaks of rain across the UK. Things turning colder from the north into Monday, albeit for a time because milder Atlantic air will return during the middle part of the coming week. That's the detail for the present time though, and low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK. Quite tightly packed isobars, so it's quite a blustery picture. And a band of rain starting to work in from the west across Ireland and Northern Ireland through the course of the evening, reaching Scotland, England and Wales during the overnight period. Some of the rain could well turn quite heavy at times, staying mostly fine towards the southeast, and some clearer weather tucking into the northwest of the UK by the morning on Sunday. Quite blustery though up towards the north, gales are likely, and wherever you are it's mild and frost-free, temperatures holding up in double figures in some places. As for Sunday itself, we'll get off to a very showery picture across Scotland. A few clear spells at times, but on the whole, there will be a fair number of showers moving in from the west. Quite mild at this stage in the day though, temperatures here in double figures. A pretty bright picture across Northern Ireland to start the day on Sunday, just 1 or 2 showers around, and fairly bright too across parts of Wales and the southwest, again with just 1 or 2 showers moving in from the west. Cloudier skies though across central and southeastern parts of England, here some more general outbreaks of rain at times. As for the rest of Sunday, well, on the whole it's a pretty unsettled day. Bands of showery rain moving in from the west, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells at times, and those blustery winds, particularly towards the north, gradually easing down as we go through the day. And another very mild day for the time of year. Temperatures peaking at 14, possibly 15 degrees down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. But as I say, tempered a little bit by the showery outbreaks of rain and that brisk breeze. As for Monday, we'll notice colder air starting to push in from the north, certainly across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. Towards the south we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, the journalist Fraser Nelson has made a documentary for Channel 4 about the crisis around Britain's sickness benefits. Take a listen.
Across the UK, a crisis is building, but affects us all. More than 3 million people are now on long-term sickness benefits, up by about 1 million in just 5 years, and these figures are set to get far worse.
Well, we're not going to get Britain growing again unless we get Britain working again.
I'm getting like £1,300, £1,400 a month, and there's people out there working and they're not even earning that.
Well, look, it's fascinating. Britain's benefits scandal airs on Channel 4 on Monday at 8 p.m. I'm delighted to say that Fraser Nelson joins me now. Hi, Fraser. Congratulations on this film. Why is it important that we watch this on Monday at 8?
I think this has been one of the most under-remarked upon scandals in British public life, how we've got 3 million people trapped now in the system that's supposed to be helping them. That's up 1 million over just 5 years. And the figures we found out last week is going to be closer to 4 million by the end of this parliament. So we've got something going very badly wrong. And when you talk to the people who are claiming sickness benefits, as I did for this documentary, you get horror story after horror story. And perhaps the most horrific thing of all is how many of them want to work, but simply aren't given the support they need. They're almost incentivized to stay out of a system, to get on sickness benefits, but nobody seems interested in getting them off.
What are sickness benefits designed to do, Fraser?
They're supposed to help you through a difficult period in your life, look after you when you can't work, and then when you get back, you're supposed to be able to get back into work. They're supposed to be part-time. But for the documentary, for example, we spoke to a taxi driver who had a bad operation. Then he was in sickness benefits. He called up saying he was better. He wanted to come off them. He was told to wait for a reassessment, and that was 3 years ago. So he's still waiting to be taken off sickness benefits. He says that when you want the money, it's very difficult to get it, and when you don't want it, they won't stop giving it to you.
That's deeply concerning. What are the implications for the economy?
Oh, pretty serious, really. I mean, losing 1 million people from the workforce and perhaps another 1 million in the next few years means that we're not going to get any serious economic growth. Keir Starmer's never going to get close to his goal for having the fastest growth in the G7. But we commissioned a study from the CEBR, and they were saying that if we hadn't lost 1 million people to sickness benefits in the last 5 years, if we'd followed most other countries in keeping it still or even reducing it, then we'd have such better growth right now. We would have the highest growth in the G7.
How many people would you estimate are gaming the system, Fraser?
Well, I wouldn't quite put it that way, because the system is so open to corruption. The system itself is so flawed. You're getting so many people who are basically answering honest questions, and they're being put into a pretty much lifetime of benefits that they didn't want, and they can't quite work out why they're there. Now, it's very difficult. Now, of course, you could say, of the 3 million sick, how many are genuinely too sick to work? How many want to work? But Barnsley Council actually did a very good study into this, and they found that the majority of people do want to work and would work with the right support. And if they reckon there's 4.5 million people in Britain who could be in the workforce with the right support. So this isn't really a story of people kind of gaming the system, or of people kind of being fraudulent in their claims. This, by and large, is a story of good people caught in a bad system, and when they wanted support, instead they ended up with a trap.
Now, in the film, you interview Liz Kendall. Is there the political will within this new Labour administration to tackle this problem?
It's difficult. This is the most difficult problem in politics, because if you get it wrong, everybody will come after you. And you can always see the charities that were lining up for Rishi Sunak, saying he was going on a full frontal assault against disabled people, will also be lining up against Keir Starmer and Liz Kendall if they reform this. Now, Liz Kendall in the film sounded very convincing. She was saying she wanted a revolution. She's certainly right in saying one is needed. But will her party go with her? Will the Prime Minister back her at what needs to be done? And last week, we didn't really get a blueprint from her. We basically said that she's going to tell us what she's doing next year. Now, that's the worrying thing, because right now, every working day, 3,000 people are signed on to sickness benefits or kept there via reassessment. Now, that's a lot of people. So every day the system is unreformed is a day that's inflicting more damage on our economy and society.
Fraser, do we need to have an honest national conversation about the scale and scope of our welfare system?
Very much so. I don't think people really have comprehended the scope of this. I mean, if you ask how many people are on benefits in Britain right now, you get a very low figure. The answer we found out last week is 6 million on out-of-work benefits of some kind. 6 million. I'm old enough to remember when unemployment passed 3 million under Margaret Thatcher, and there was outrage then. But when sickness benefits passed 3 million, nobody cared. So I think that it's not properly being discussed, and that's why I wanted to make this film, to show, first of all, how bad it got, and secondly, to give a chance of those caught up in the system to speak for themselves, to show that this is not scroungers, this is not skivers. These are people who, through no fault of their own, have ended up in a trap, but they're really difficult, finding it hard to navigate out of.
Fraser, stay with us and let's bring in my pundits this evening, Peter Lloyd, Linda Jubilee and Lisa Mackenzie. Peter, if we don't tackle this issue, the economy is just going to fall over at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, as we've seen over the last couple of decades, the welfare state is just going to grow and grow and grow. It never recedes, never shrinks, because it's such a political hot potato. Very few politicians have got the will to bring it back into line. And increasingly, people are incentivized to go onto sickness benefits because the system is so easy, and then, as Fraser says, they get trapped into it. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's just eventually going to collapse. And that's the real concern, because when that happens, we're screwed.
And it strikes me, Lisa, that this film isn't about demonising people on benefits. And in many ways, we need empathy and understanding because they don't want to be stuck at home taking welfare. They'd like to be out working, but it's hard for them to do so.
I hope that this is not about demonising people on benefits, because that has happened for far too long. I mean, I've done research and I've written books over 20 years on this subject. And one of the things that I hope Fraser's film shows is the complexity of the benefit system. It's not an easy system, actually, to get through. And one of the reasons why there are such a lot of people on sickness benefit is because you simply can't live on unemployment benefit. Nobody can live on the levels of our unemployment benefit. So what they do is they try to get, other benefits to top that up. We've also need to start to think about education, training, skills, and those things need to be there when people need them, and that very often lets people down. We need lifelong learning, something that I've been advocating for many years, which is adult education. That was axed all the funding was axed in 2012. So this is a real mess, actually.
Well, it is a mess, but all of this costs money, Linda Jubilee, and the cupboard's bare. We are broke.
Well, I think we've just got to do some reconfiguring here and try and find some imaginative ways of funding this, because one of the things that really troubles me is that when you get youngsters who become unemployed and they learn to lean on benefits, they lose any sense of self-confidence, they don't feel empowered, they become often lethargic, they have no faith in the power of their own ability to get stuff done, and that is a really troubling problem for society. Never mind the money, that's a problem.
Fraser, what about mental health? Is that a gold rush for those who would seek to exploit the state's resources?
I wouldn't call it a gold rush, but it's certainly the case that 70% of sickness benefit claims mention mental health. Now, you've got a system there where they're being assessed pretty much over a telephone interview by the assessors. And we've spoken to a few of them they're basically whistleblowers, have left saying, look, the system simply doesn't work. One of them told me that it's just not possible over a 30, 45-minute telephone interview to work out if somebody is so mentally ill that they're in no position to work. And yet that's the position these assessors are in, making literally thousands of such judgments every day. And also, you're quite right to mention young people. I mean, there's now 200,000 under 25s on sickness benefit, but the fastest rising age group are the 25 to 34-year-olds. Now, that is up 65% in the last 5 years to 500,000 people. Now, given the relatively low chances of coming off sickness benefit, that is potentially a huge waste of lives. And you're quite right, the money's unaffordable. When you factor in everything for all ages, the sickness benefit benefit bill, it looks close to coming into like £100 billion. Now, that is obviously unaffordable, but what we can't also afford is to write so many people off and pretend to have a cohesive society, where in fact we're doing without the skills of 3 million, 4 million people. That is no way to run a society or an economy.
Fraser Nelson, one of the most respected journalists in the country, is the presenter of Britain's Benefits Scandal. It airs on Channel 4 on Monday at 8. Clearly must-see TV. Fraser, thanks for your time. Good luck with the film, and we'll catch up soon. OK, folks, lots more to come. Next up, my Mark Meets guest is world-renowned magician and mind reader Josh Hodis, who will demonstrate his extraordinary gift in just a moment. Can he read what's in my mind? Find out next.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Jaguar has ditched its growling big cat logo as part of what can only be described as a woke rebrand. The badge that has been used for decades, look at it, beautiful, on the bonnets of luxury cars has been swapped for a curved geometric J badge. They've also released a brand new advert, look at it, for their rebrand, which prompted Elon Musk to ask if the company actually sold cars. I thought this was a wind-up. It's not. It's true. And joining me now to discuss this is the motoring journalist Amanda Stratton. Amanda, what on earth is going on at Jaguar? The car of James Bond, Batman, Arthur Daley has gone off the scale woke. Please make me make sense of it.
The E-Type is an absolutely iconic car, and it's important that people remember that, in fact, in its heyday, Jaguar was an incredibly prestigious brand, more so really than other British brands like Aston Martin, for example. But, you know, people in the industry are left sort of scratching their heads because you need to do something bold, you need to do something that catches people's attention, but you also need to stay true to who you are and what you are, and I'm not sure that this is it.
Amanda, that could be an advert for anything. It could be cat food. It could be Karl Lagerfeld. It could be literally anything apart from a Jag. Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, OK, we're talking about it. So we are talking about it, but we're not talking about it for the right reasons, are we?
And I think if I was going to be speculative here, I would like to think that this is actually all part of a cunning plan to get everybody talking about it. Yeah. So when they do launch the first new car that we're going to see, which, you know, people have been waiting, as I say, since 2001.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, folks, it is time for Mark Meets, and this evening, magician and mind reader Josh Hodis. Now, Josh, it's so good to see you. We had a couple of technical issues, which means our time is squeezed a little. But I'm very excited to have you here. How did you get into magic?
You know what? I started magic quite late. I was a shy kid. I loved performing. Once I got onto stage, I loved to perform. You know, I was energetic. I loved it. And then I started the magic. Shortly after that, because it was like another avenue of performing, you know.
Yeah,
so...
and the thing is, I mean, obviously, you know, you've got skills and you practice, but when it comes to magic tricks or even mind reading, is some of it a born talent?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to have a natural, like, act to you, you know, the energy has to be there. You have to be able to perform, you know, and just hold yourself, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be good with people.
Well, with the mind reading, for example, does that mean that you kind of will always know what I'm thinking? And does that work with girlfriends and all the rest of it as well?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it kind of does, you know, like the women love it. The women love it, you know, so it's...
Because you can see into their minds.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Well, I've looked into Mrs. Dolan's mind and it's not pretty, so I didn't do that again. But listen, what about these tricks then? You've been doing this for years. You're world-renowned. Is there anything you want to show us tonight that will wow my viewers?
Yeah, so when you think of a magician, you think of, oh, it's sleight of hand.
Yeah.
So what I thought I'd do for you is I would show you what I'm going to do before I do it. Yeah?
Brilliant.
So I've got a deck of cards here. I'll take them out of the box. And I want you to take out any card.
There you go. I'll say I've not seen these before, folks.
Have a look in. And I'm
not allowed to tell you what's on it, am I?
No, don't tell me. But take the pen.
Right.
And I want you to sign your name on it really big. Like, make it your own.
On the side that you can't see.
Now, the reason why we do this is so that it's your card and we have no other card like it anywhere else in the world, right? So I'll take back the pen. Okay, like this, yeah? Perfect. And the camera saw it? Yeah?
Oh, shall I show it to the camera?
Yeah, show the camera. Okay. I'll look away.
Harry, do your worst. Yeah, we're just going to put 10p in the meter.
Perfect. And then take the card and pop it straight into the deck.
There it is there.
There it is.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right. Happy days.
And then place it anywhere you like in there.
Okay, I'm going to try not to let you see where I've put it.
I'm going to close the box like this.
Good. All right, so my card, which I've signed, has just gone into that box, which is now in your jacket pocket.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm watching you carefully. I'm not going to let you away with anything.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do, okay? The box is firmly in my pocket.
Saw that.
Imagine this. Imagine me go into my pocket, take out the box, take out the cards. I'm going to go through the cards. I'm going to find your signed card. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put the cards back in the box.
Well, that's impossible.
I have the card. I'm going to take your card. I'm going to put it inside of an envelope. I'm going to seal up the envelope.
Can't be done.
And then I'm going to put it inside my wallet.
Well, I don't know how you'll do that because I've watched the card go into the box. It's now in your jacket pocket.
And
I'm not stupid. I've lived a life.
And you put it anyway, right?
Done.
You put it anyway. You put it in yourself, yeah?
I put it in by myself, and you didn't see where I put it in because you were looking away.
How long do you think I can do it?
I think it would take you a couple of hours, and you get it wrong probably 100 times. Okay, so this is...
Imagine.
Am I allowed to touch that?
Yeah, you can touch it. The wallet, you mean, you're right?
Oh, so that's your wallet, right?
That's the wallet, right?
Yeah.
There's a zip
that is not the pack of cards, which is your jacket still.
No, your card is somewhere in there. You put it in.
Yeah, I watched it.
Inside here is a zip compartment.
Right, zip shut. Now, I didn't see you unzip anything.
No.
Hold it up now because Harry wants to see that.
Inside is a envelope. I'll show the camera.
Yeah, that's an envelope,
I'll show this one.
But that won't have my card in it because my card is...
I want you just to check it's sealed. It's sealed, right?
It is sealed. It is... I
want you to open that. Open it for me. And if everything that I said actually happened, your card should be inside of my wallet, inside of an envelope.
I honestly
and that is your
am
card, signed card right there.
Shocked. I cannot believe this. If this was 100 years ago, you'd be burned at the stake. Joan of Arc, eat your heart out. That is truly magical. I mean, just to recap there, what I've watched Joss do is take my card, put it into a pack of cards in his pocket. He's then produced this. It's sealed. That is my signature. You are a genius.
We got time for one quick one?
No, I tell you what we need to know is how can people find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at jspadesmagic. And yeah, just follow me on there, follow me on Instagram and watch what I do, and I'll be hopefully performing magic for you sometime in the future soon, yeah.
You are a terrifying magical genius. I'm sold, and I am a sceptical person, but he did it. Well done. In my take a 10, the BBC and Greg Wallace, it's all kicked off. See you in 2.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the course of Sunday, we'll see some showery outbreaks of rain across the UK. Things turning colder from the north into Monday, albeit for a time because milder Atlantic air will return during the middle part of the coming week. Back to detail for the present time, though, and low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK. Quite tightly packed isobars, so it's quite a blustery picture. And a band of rain starting to work in from the west across Ireland and Northern Ireland through the course of the evening, reaching Scotland, England and Wales during the overnight period. Some of the rain could well turn quite heavy at times. Staying mostly fine towards the southeast and some clearer weather tucking into the northwest of the UK by the morning on Sunday. Quite blustery though up towards the north, gales are likely, and wherever you are it's mild and frost-free, temperatures holding up in double figures in some places. As for Sunday itself, we'll get off to a very showery picture across Scotland. A few clear spells at times, but on the whole, there will be a fair number of showers moving in from the west. Quite mild at this stage in the day, though. Temperatures here in double figures. A pretty bright picture across Northern Ireland to start the day on Sunday, just 1 or 2 showers around, and fairly bright too across parts of Wales and the southwest, again with just 1 or 2 showers moving in from the west. Cloudier skies though across central and southeastern parts of England, here some more general outbreaks of rain at times. As for the rest of Sunday, well, on the whole, it's a pretty unsettled day. Bands of showery rain moving in from the west, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells at times, and those blustery winds, particularly towards the north, gradually easing down as we go through the day. And another very mild day for the time of year. Temperatures peaking at 14, possibly 15 degrees down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. But as I say, tempered a little bit by the showery outbreaks of rain and that brisk breeze. As for Monday, we'll notice colder air starting to push in from the north, certainly across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. Towards the south we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash. We've made loads of winners this year, and you could be our next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. It happens to people like me.
For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It is 10 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, as the BBC is engulfed in yet another scandal, this time surrounding MasterChef star Greg Wallace, we get news that the licence fee is to rise to an eye-watering £174.50 from April. Is it still worth the money? I'll be giving my verdict in just a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, Kate Middleton is set for her biggest engagement since her cancer diagnosis. King Charles changes his diet in a health development. And Prince Harry gets help from Taylor Swift in his battle for UK security. We'll get more from our top royal insider. Plus, at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, a packed show, lots to get through, including tonight's top pundits. This evening, we have author and academic Dr. Lisa Mackenzie, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and fearless writer and broadcaster Peter Lloyd. So there you go, folks. The BBC in crisis, and yes, they've put their prices up. Is it still worth the money? I'll be answering that question straight after the news headlines and someone who is worth every penny. Joe Casper.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. It's 10:01. I'm Joe Casper. Here are your top stories from the GB Newsroom. This evening, the Sunday Times is reporting a BBC executive warned Greg Wallace about his alleged behaviour in 2017, saying it was unacceptable and cannot continue. Meanwhile, the Sunday Telegraph quotes a former producer saying she raised concerns about the MasterChef presenter but was dismissed. And the Observer says a letter sent by a number of women to the BBC in 2022 reported multiple allegations of inappropriate behaviour by the host but did not prompt further investigation. It comes after the MasterChef producer, Banijay UK, announced City law firm Lewis Silkin will investigate alleged misconduct by Mr Wallace. The BBC said, "If issues are raised with us, we have robust processes in place to deal with them swiftly and appropriately." Mr Wallace's lawyers insist the claims are entirely false, saying the suggestion that Wallace, who presented the popular BBC One cooking show alongside John Turode since 2005, engages in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature was entirely false. A memorial service has been held today for former First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond. His wife of more than 40 years and supporters arranged a remembrance service for him on St Andrew's Day. Mr Salmond died last month in North Macedonia at the age of 69. He was at a conference when he suffered a heart attack and was buried in a private family ceremony near his home in Aberdeenshire at the end of October. A murder investigation has been launched after the death of a woman in her 60s in South London. Officers were called to an address in Surrey Quays at about 3 p.m. on Friday after reports that a woman had been stabbed, the Metropolitan Police said. The London Ambulance Service and London's Air Ambulance also attended, and the woman was taken to hospital where she later died. A 61-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder and remains in custody. Football action now, and there were wins for Brentford, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth in the Premier League today. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace scored a last-minute equaliser to draw 1-1 at home to Newcastle. In the evening kick-off, Arsenal thumped West Ham 5-2, and the England ladies ended USA's 9-game winning streak with a goalless draw in a friendly at Wembley. Now to a story that will sweeten your day. A man has been awarded £2 in compensation after he complained about a smooth Mars bar. Harry Seeger from Buckinghamshire picked up the chocolate treat at a service station in Oxfordshire, but contacted manufacturers Mars Wrigley when he discovered it didn't have its signature ripple. In a letter, the firm apologised for his experience and enclosed a £2 voucher, but offered no explanation. Mr Seeger said, "I think £2 is great. It will be 2 free Mars bars. Maybe they could have sent me more, but I'm not being ungrateful." Those are your headlines for now. I'm Joe Casper, more in an hour. Now back to Mark Dolan.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
A health update for King Charles with my top royal insider, plus tomorrow's papers and full pundit reaction. But first, my take at 10. Oh dear, just as another huge scandal engulfs the BBC with serious allegations about MasterChef host Greg Wallace, we received the delightful news that the licence fee, an obligatory tax for the great privilege of looking at your telly, is to go up to £174.50. For the comfortably off, that is a rounding error. That's just a big shop at Sainsbury's. But for many others, deliberating over whether to switch on their radiator this evening, then that is a lot of money. The licence fee shouldn't be going up. It should be coming down to reflect these straitened times and to reflect the fact that broadcast technology is far cheaper these days, cameras, microphones, etc. And also to reflect the fact that a channel like GB News can broadcast 18 hours of premium live content every day for the price of half a sandwich and a cup of tea. There is certainly no wardrobe budget. Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world with billions of downloads, a show that he effectively records in his garage. But oh no, the BBC has to have lavish resources paid for by you and I. Armies of producers and researchers. Stars like Gary Lineker on £1.4 million a year to read out football scores. Zoe Ball on £1 million a year to spin records. And top executives on six-figure salaries. The truth is that those BBC executives are barely able to contain their embarrassment at the taste and views of ordinary British people, with one top boss recently refusing to say if he found one of the few entertaining shows on the BBC, Mrs Brown's Boys, funny. Well, they're in the brown stuff now, as it's revealed 500,000 Brits stopped paying the licence fee last year alone. Now, many would argue the licence fee should go altogether. Legendary former BBC star John Humphreys has argued that this TV tax is no longer fit for purpose. Of course, the BBC haven't helped themselves by being so incredibly arrogant and out of touch. We could probably swallow this annual cost if the national state broadcaster was delivering for the whole nation, but it ain't. Instead, the public are served up shows like Have I Got News for You, Question Time and Doctor Who, which all have a perceived leftist slant, whilst letting hugely popular older stars like Ken Bruce, Steve Wright and Sue Barker go. They stood accused of an anti-Brexit bias following the referendum, and during the pandemic, the BBC narrative was pro-lockdown, pro-masking and pro-vaccine tyranny, none of which, in my view, has aged well. The BBC's coverage of the October the 7th attacks upset thousands of British Jews, with the former director of television at the BBC, Danny Cohen, calling the corporation institutionally anti-Semitic. An independent report suggested that the BBC had demonstrated an anti-Israel bias on more than 1,500 occasions. And The Telegraph today report a BBC whistleblower calling anti-Jewish attitudes at the BBC, and I quote, the norm. Oh, and their star presenter Gary Lineker described October the 7th, the single worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust, as the Hamas thing. Charming. So much of the BBC's output feels like it's made for the North London Negroni-swilling metropolitan elite. Woke, university-educated liberals who are comfortably insulated from the consequences of the soft socialism peddled by Auntie. Meanwhile, presenters like BBC Radio 5 Live's Nihal Arthur-Nyika, he can announce that he's triggered by working with white people and that it affects his mental health with no consequence. It's bad enough that the BBC's output doesn't speak to the entire nation, with attempts to ban Land of Hope and Glory and breakfast TV presenters sneering at the flag. But what's worse is that the BBC can't even keep its own house in order. Reportedly, Hugh Edwards' shocking behaviour was known for years. There was Top Gear and the almost fatal death of Freddie Flintoff following accusations of negligence. The Strictly Giovanni Panice row, of course. And now serious allegations about Greg Wallace of MasterChef. Now, one of the country's top lawyers, Mark Stevens, told Times Radio today that bad behaviour in a normal company just wouldn't be tolerated, but things seem to be different at the BBC.
Why is it that the BBC seem to be incapable of managing these kind of situations? Was it that they're turning a blind eye and they haven't moved on from the 1980s, or are the systems just not fit for purpose? What is it that's different about the BBC? Why are they failing in these circumstances, and why is this not coming out much earlier? And why is prompt action not being taken?
Why indeed? Now, it's a crying shame that an institution that we should love is so despised by many. But they've brought it on themselves. And this latest Greg Wallace scandal is another turn-off for a BBC that needs to get its house in order. With an income of £5 billion a year, how hard can it be? Well, very hard apparently, because new research suggests that the BBC hasn't scored an original hit for 5 years. There's a surprise. Perhaps the commissioners should dig their heads out of their backsides and get out of Islington from time to time. Our national state broadcaster has a problem. With not enough masterminds and too many pointless celebrities, the BBC is starting to look like the weakest link. Now, let me be clear that I like the BBC. In fact, I would go as far as to say I love the BBC. It's got an amazing heritage. It's a global brand. It gives us soft diplomatic power. I want it to thrive. I want it to survive. But at the moment, it's in a self-inflicted death spiral. Your reaction: is the licence fee increase worth the money? Are you happy to spend £147.50 or whatever it is? Just too much, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. Let me hasten to add that GB News costs you out, and it never will. OK, tonight's top pundits, we have author and academic Dr. Lisa Mackenzie, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and writer and broadcaster Peter Lloyd. Linda, how do you solve a problem like the BBC?
I'm not sure, because this has never really gone away, and it isn't just the BBC. It's television, because television attracts talent, and there is a power structure, and that power structure can be abused. It's certainly abused at the BBC, and it's a real worry. Whilst we don't know what's actually gone on with Greg Wallace, if 13 people have come forward with similar allegations, you can safely say something's going on and something needs to be investigated. And it's almost, with Greg Wallace aside, but with predatory behaviour, it's nearly always on an industrial level. So that we see with Mohammed Al-Fayed, for example, I think there's nearly 400 survivors of that abuse. And there will be, once you start lifting the lid on all of this, more and more will roll out. We haven't even heard the end of the Hugh Edwards story yet. But certainly, I was a newspaper journalist for several years before moving to Sky Television, moving into television. It was absolutely everywhere then, and it's everywhere now. I mean, it's a real worry.
Well, indeed. Now, Peter, of course, we don't know anything about the Greg Wallace allegations. And, I mean, of course, there's stuff floating around the press. We don't want trial by media. And there's no evidence at this stage to compare Greg Wallace to Hugh Edwards or Mohammed Al-Fayed or anyone. Innocent till proven guilty. You can say that about Greg Wallace. You can't say that about the BBC, because it's not the first time they've had a crisis like this.
Exactly. You only have to look back over the last few decades. You had Jimmy Savile, you know, you had
Rolf Harris,
Martin Bashir, you had Rolf Harris. You know, there's just a catalogue of these failings, and every time the BBC have been complicit in covering it up for their own gain. They want to protect their stars, even if they're behaving badly, because it's all about revenue and power and influence.
Is there any evidence they did that with Hugh Edwards? I mean, they would argue that once the allegations were made, they had a full...
There was a huge gap between the first complaint being made and them actually taking action. There was a huge gap. And that is just inexcusable.
And the wrong week for the BBC to put the cost of licence fee up, would you say?
I mean,
it's only a fiver, but the overall figure is massive.
It's astonishing, and it just decreases the value of money. I mean, I am of the opinion, you like the BBC, you want it to thrive.
I do.
I'm of the opinion that it's beyond reform and that it can't collapse soon enough. I just think it's so compromised that it can't be fixed.
So what would the brave new world for the BBC look like in your ideal scenario? Or would you axe it? Would you literally close it down? Would you have a fire sale?
Well,
would you sell Gary Lineker on eBay?
I think it should
buy it now for
it should be stripped down to the bare
Gary Lineker.
Yeah, it's to the basics. Yeah.
No, it really should.
So what would it be? Would it come out of general taxation? You'd lose the licence fee? Would you have just a small budget from central government to keep it going?
No, I think it should be a subscription service only.
Yeah, you
now,
see...
Lisa, do you want to defend the BBC?
I do.
Because it's got millions of viewers and listeners every week who couldn't be happy.
Yeah, I do want to defend it, and I know that, and it's getting harder to defend constantly because the BBC has done some astonishing programmes and the dramas that they do. You know, Our Friends in the North. You know, the great BBC dramas that they've done, they put money into. You wouldn't get that anywhere else.
Fawlty Towers, The Office, Only Fools.
And then also, you know, you've got the local news. I really value local news, local radio. I really value that. But it is getting difficult to defend the sort of BBC schedule. For a start, MasterChef. Why is there 4 different types of MasterChef? I don't watch it. I hate it. But it annoys me. MasterChef, the professionals. MasterChef, the celebrity. Ordinary MasterChef. It's on all year.
Because they lack creative ideas.
But ask yourself this: why did Michelle Hussain leave or announce her departure this week from the Radio 4 Today programme to go to Bloomberg TV?
Yes.
Now, I'm not rubbishing Bloomberg. I think it's a very, very, professional service.
Yeah.
And that's where she started her career. But 10 years ago, leaving the BBC's flagship radio programme to go to a niche channel would never have occurred to her.
There you go.
So what is that telling us about people's career strategy? Emily Maitlis, she's gone off and done Newsagents podcast, doesn't she? People aren't staying there.
And revealing her politics into the bargain.
Right,
Peter,
right.
Along with John Sopel and others.
Yeah.
Well, they just can't help themselves, these people. They're supposed to be neutral, but they just can't help themselves.
I'm going to have my own personal gripe about this, actually, because once upon a time, the BBC did push through working-class talent. So there was the Play for Today's, Dennis Potter started there, Ken Loach.
Kitchen sink drama.
Kitchen sink drama. Working-class talent.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen now.
And that is what I think is the problem of the BBC. It's not connecting with any audience. It's connecting to an audience that it thinks is there.
It's in a bubble.
But it's not. And I think we can say that about many media organisations.
Fascinating. Well, look, I'll get to your thoughts about this at 10:30, but we've got a statement from the BBC regarding Greg Wallace. We are always clear that any behaviour which falls below the standards expected by the BBC will not be tolerated. Where an individual is contracted directly by an external production company, we share any complaints or concerns with that company and we will always support them when addressing them. And in relation to the Greg Wallace specific allegations, the Beeb said if issues are raised with us, we have robust processes in place to deal with them swiftly and appropriately. And Mr. Wallace's lawyers insist the claims are entirely false, saying the suggestion that Wallace, who has presented the popular BBC One cooking show alongside John Turode since 2005, engages in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature was entirely false. OK, folks, some good news. It's time for our biggest and greatest British giveaway. This year, your chance to win £50,000 in free cash. That is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It could be yours. Here are the details.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Brilliant stuff. Now, Kate Middleton is set for her biggest engagement since her cancer diagnosis. King Charles changes his diet in a health development, and Prince Harry gets help from Taylor Swift in his battle for UK security. All of that plus more with our top royal insider next.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Australian chef David Thompson is opening a new restaurant, Long Chim. The name, which translates roughly as come and try, already has locations in Sydney, Perth and Dubai, and previously operated in Melbourne and Singapore. It marks a return to London for Thompson, whose Belgravia haunt Naarm closed in 2012, but that earned him accolades including, in 2002, the first Michelin star awarded to a Thai restaurant. So you've mentioned Bangkok there. What is your love for Thai food? Describe to us why you think Thai food is such a great cuisine.
It's endlessly complex and satisfying. It just resonates on the palate. For me, as a cook, it offers a challenge. And the way that you cook it is you chase taste. You don't follow a recipe, you follow your sense of taste. And so with all these dishes that you'll taste today, but also in the restaurant that we're opening, it's all about a sequence of taste and seasoning that has some balance.
What is this dish?
This is something called Gengari Gung, which is an aromatic curry of prawns.
Lovely looking prawns, yes.
They're not too bad. And it's with something strange called water bamboo, which we found up in Chinatown just the other day. And it's a perfect accompaniment. I'll just take a little.
Yes. Describe that perfect accompaniment to me again. Water bamboo. What is it? Water bamboo, yeah.
And you would not know of it, because I didn't know of it that much either. And it tastes like a little bit of like young coconut meat. So it's perfect with these prawns and this curry. And what you need to have with this curry, because this is the way that Thai food works, an interplay of flavours. This little cucumber salad on the side, and that helps to bring out the spice and the sweetness and the savoury quality.
I must say, all of this looks so lovely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The BBC licence fee is going up in April. Is it worth the money? Christina has messaged in. Good evening, Christina. How are you? She says, I only watch a few programmes 3 times a week on ITV and 2 on the BBC twice a week. So please tell me why it costs me all that money every year. I'm a pensioner and not a better off one, yet I'm charged this enormous amount. I've watched these same programmes for so many years, but it looks like I'll have to ruin my little pleasures in life because it is just too much. Shame on the BBC. Christina, thank you for that. What I would do is I would slash costs at the BBC. I'd get the talent money down. I'd get rid of those middle managers swanning around in their Hugo Boss suits, and I would deliver a bit of bang for your buck. And I would hope to get the licence fee down to perhaps sub £100, if not more. Maybe halve it to 70 or 80. Give me a chance and I'll see what I can do. But listen, folks, lots more to come. Now it's US news with the Queen of American showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, lovely to see you. And some very positive news about Princess Catherine.
That's right. Princess Catherine's annual Christmas Carol concert is happening next week. And just a few minutes ago, the Princess of Wales posted a special letter on their Instagram account. And it says, a special letter reflecting on the importance of love, empathy, and how much we need one another in the most difficult times. This will be given to each of the guests at the Together at Christmas Carol concert at Westminster Abbey. And it's very sweet. You can see that she gets personal in this letter, talking about how this is her favorite holiday. We're all eager to see her. We've all been rooting for her throughout the last 12 months. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but if you look at what was happening a year ago, we were talking about Omid Scobie's in game. And this, we now know that around this time last year, when we were obsessed with the royal racist narrative, she was finding out she was ill. So I do think that this year should be a time of reflection for all of us, because she's had a horrible year, and I think we're all very grateful that she is still here.
Well, indeed. Harry, give me a bit of Catherine Float when you get a second. I want to ask you about your observation of her recent appearances in public. How do you read the body language? How do you think she's doing?
Oh, I think that she's grateful to be there. I think you do see how much she loves Prince William and how much she loves her family. I mean, even when we were at trooping, I was with you during trooping. When she was there for trooping, she was just, her hands were always on her babies. They were laughing when they didn't know the cameras were on them. I do think she is just thrilled that she was in a position to spend so much time with her children this year. Yeah. And I think she's grateful, not only for everyone's support, the people that sent her thousands of get well soon cards, but also, you know, King Charles's support, who's also been ill, the Queen Consort's support. I think that this family is tighter than they've ever been, and it's been a blessing to be able to see that.
And unlike her famous American sister-in-law, Catherine loves the public role. She enjoys being a member of the royal family, and she loves representing this country, doesn't she?
Absolutely. This is a job that she worked very hard for. She understood, she researched, she understood what the expectations were. And, you know, I think what it says about Catherine is that she has a very tough character. I've always thought of her as a very elegant and delicate human being, but this year we saw her strength.
Can we hope that 2025 is the year that she really bounces back?
Oh, absolutely. Of course we hope that. Yes, that's definitely what we want to see. We would love to see her more out and about, but you know, some of my other commentators and I have discussed privately what our expectations are of Prince William and Catherine, and we believe we might see them less, but we might see them in bigger capacities, like the Earthshot Awards, like Catherine's Christmas Carol concert. We believe they're going to produce these big events that give them access to people all over the world, and we might not see them go to all of these events like, you know, we've become used to over the last few years, and like Princess Anne has absolutely dominated in her lifetime.
Indeed. Now, of course, it's easy to forget that King Charles is still battling a cancer diagnosis as well, but it seems like he's pulling out all the stops to make a good recovery.
I know we have to acknowledge how incredible he's been throughout the last year too, and you know, the joke is that they just can't slow him down no matter what. Yeah. The Queen would love for him to sit still, and he can't. And one change he's made is to his diet. And doctors are celebrating this one ingredient meal, they're calling it, where King Charles for lunch just has half of an avocado. Doctors are saying this is a great idea. Maybe he could throw in, instead of an avocado, he could do blueberries one day, or nuts, or edamame. This is apparently something that they find really rewarding for the body. Victoria Beckham probably agrees, having only eaten fish and steamed vegetables for the last 25 years. But yeah, this is apparently one of the things and one of the changes he's making to his diet to ensure that he is doing everything he can to get better.
Well, there you go. That's all we can hope and pray for. Meanwhile, Prince Harry is going to deploy a rather famous celebrity in his battle with the Home Office for royal protection when he's in the UK.
I bet Keir Starmer is wishing that he might have not made this decision. You know, there was a serious enough terror threat in Vienna that Taylor Swift was forced to cancel shows. And following that scare, following Ariana Grande's Manchester Arena bombing, Taylor's mother and manager called the UK government and said, we either heighten security or we cancel our UK shows. they weren't just protecting Taylor Swift and her entourage. They were protecting thousands of families and little children. Taylor is a superstar that brings millions of dollars to the economy, and Prince Harry's team is expected to use Taylor's example to show, why does Taylor get this special treatment and not me? I mean, I would argue, Prince Harry, you're a public figure, not a superstar, that does not contribute to the success of tourism in the UK anymore. And people do not spend thousands of dollars to see you perform. I don't think the two compare.
No, well, listen, Kinsey, you're right about that. We always roll out the red carpet for you, and I look forward to catching up in a week's time. My thanks to the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. OK, folks, the papers are in. We shall have full pundit reaction after this.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the course of Sunday, we'll see some showery outbreaks of rain across the UK. Things turning colder from the north into Monday, albeit for a time, because milder Atlantic air will return during the middle part of the coming week. That's the detail for the present time, though, and low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK. Quite tightly packed isobars, so it's quite a blustery picture. And a band of rain starting to work in from the west across Ireland and Northern Ireland through the course of the evening, reaching Scotland, England and Wales during the overnight period. Some of the rain could well turn quite heavy at times, staying mostly fine towards the southeast, and some clearer weather tucking into the northwest of the UK by the morning on Sunday. Quite blustery though up towards the north, gales are likely, and wherever you are it's mild and frost-free, temperatures holding up in double figures in some places. As for Sunday itself, we'll get off to a very showery picture across Scotland. A few clear spells at times, but on the whole, there will be a fair number of showers moving in from the west. Quite mild at this stage in the day though, temperatures here in double figures. A pretty bright picture across Northern Ireland to start the day on Sunday, just one or two showers around, and fairly bright too across parts of Wales and the southwest, again with just one or two showers moving in from the west. Cloudier skies though across central and southeastern parts of England, here some more general outbreaks of rain at times. As for the rest of Sunday, well, on the whole it's a pretty unsettled day. Bands of showery rain moving in from the west, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells at times, and those blustery winds, particularly towards the north, gradually easing down as we go through the day. And another very mild day for the time of year. Temperatures peaking at 14, possibly 15 degrees down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. But as I say, tempered a little bit by the showery outbreaks of rain and that brisk breeze. As for Monday, we'll notice colder air starting to push in from the north, certainly across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. Towards the south, we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, and locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, folks, we'll get to the papers in just a moment. But what about the BBC? Is it worth the money? Dennis says the BBC should be directed by government to fully investigate all complaints against presenters and other public-facing personnel within 3 months of a complaint being received. However, as a taxpayer-funded organisation, any compensation deemed to be due should be capped at £250. OK, folks, I'll get to more of your messages. Maybe just this from David, who says, Mark, people over 70 should be exempt from the licence fee. They've been ripped off long enough. Well, David, I think you raise a good point, because actually older people in particular really need their TV. I'll be honest, I don't think they all need the BBC, but if you're watching a television, you have to pay the licence fee. And that's why they should have more support. OK, well, I'm sure we'll return to that shortly, but first, tomorrow's papers. And we start with The Independent. Top pollsters warning on Prime Minister's plan for change. Sir John Curtis says Keir Starmer has shown absolutely no ability to explain how he's going to lead the UK out of its problems after 5 months of government, as the PM prepares for a major policy reset this week. Sunday Mirror, a Christmas charity appeal, families' agony as number of missing people soars. Sunday Express, MOD orders £37 million worth of kit from China. Daily Star Sunday, paranormal shenanigans shake up tourist hotspot. Cursed picture is at it again. A spine-tingling portrait that spooked all of its owners is still scaring the bejesus out of people. The haunted picture of a girl is now causing ghoulish chaos at a tourist attraction. Make it stop, say the Star on Sunday. The Observer, PM to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. Keir Starmer will pledge this week to undertake the most ambitious programme for government in a generation as he sets out new targets to refocus his premiership amid falling approval ratings and the first resignation from his cabinet. Syrian rebels take control of Aleppo is the other story in The Observer. Mail on Sunday, shocking Labour hypocrisy. Liz Kendall, who axed £300 payment to pensioners, lives in a £4 million Notting Hill home with her banker partner. And guess what? Winter Fuel Minister's heating bill is paid by you. Also, Princess's moving Christmas letter, as referenced by Kinsey Schofield just a moment ago. Princess Kate, how love gets us through our dark times. Absolutely right. Well, I'll tell you who gets me through my dark times. It's tonight's top pundits, author and academic Dr. Lisa McKenzie, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and writer and broadcaster Peter Lloyd. I've got to say, that is a remarkable headline in The Observer, Linda. The Prime Minister to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. Is that a worrying sign that they need a reset after just 5 months?
Yeah, I mean, 5 months in, you'd expect them still to be in the honeymoon period. Never mind reset. I mean, he doesn't even look confident anymore, I don't think.
Doesn't.
Neither does Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves looks exhausted.
Yeah, when she was at the CBI conference,
that's when I noticed
she looked quite wobbly, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. She looked very, very anxious. It was really, really obvious in her body language, I think.
Yeah, you're agreeing that you feel Starmer has been spooked by his first taste of power, Peter.
Yeah, I think he thought it would be easier than the job actually is. And it's very, very easy, you know, when you're in the shadow cabinet, when you're in opposition, to be critical and to assume that you could do the job better. But the reality of actually being a number 10, I think it's hit him quite hard. And he seems personally wounded by the drop in his approval rating. He seems to have taken that really personally.
Well, that's right. He was ashen-faced on ITV the other day when told that Nigel Farage was more popular than he was.
Yeah.
He was uncharacteristically speechless. But Lisa, is this what happens when you don't have a plan for government? You just want to be in government?
Yes, I think it is. I think that's exactly what's happened. I mean, what were they doing? They've sat there for 14 years.
Wow.
14 years. They must have known something was, you know, well, when we get in government, they knew they were going to win, even though they kept saying, well, we've got to wait. They knew they were getting in, and he had no plan whatsoever. And I think he's such a thin-skinned man that this is really, I think, you know, people just disliking him. I think it's really bothered him,
Someone said something interesting to me at a political dinner last week. They said that he was a lawyer's lawyer.
Yeah.
What he cared about was his reputation on the international circuit with other lawyers, human rights lawyers, international lawyers, diplomats. But he wasn't really used to caring what the average person...
And people do not like him. They don't like him.
Including some Labour supporters.
A lot of Labour supporters. Like I keep saying, I've written an article this week about it.
Where can we read it?
It's in Spiked.
Oh, yeah, brilliant magazine. Online newspaper.
Yeah, it's in Spiked, where I've kind of said he's more disliked than Margaret Thatcher was in the mining communities, which is extraordinary, knowing that
they had a reason to hate her.
Yeah, they had a reason, you know, and one of the things that I've said is hopefully, you know, like Margaret Thatcher, he'll be leaving number 10 crying.
And it's interesting that where the petition's concerned, the density of people who signed that petition are all in that area.
Yeah.
They're all up there.
And the Red Wall.
Well, now, Peter, of course, Labour will argue that they had a landslide victory and Sir Keir Starmer is the man to deliver the change
say that, yes.
that Britain needs. It's quite true that the tax rises have been forced upon them because of the economy that they've inherited.
Lies.
The deficit, all of that. I mean, things aren't exactly going swimmingly, so they've got their work cut out. But Lisa mentions Margaret Thatcher and whether Starmer will leave office in tears. But, of course, that only happened after a decade in power. Do you think Starmer will go the distance? Do you think he'll still be Prime Minister at the next election?
Well, I don't think so. But what really worries me is who the hell would replace him? I mean, the entire cabinet is semi-professional, almost, you know, like a sixth form debating society in a politics class. None of them have got the finesse or the agility or the kind of statesman-like qualities that you need from a politician.
Is that fair? I mean, they've come from the public sector. You've got someone like Angela Rayner, who's got an amazing life story, single-parent mother.
That's all she's got. That's all she's got.
That's all she's got. Nobody cares about that. People need powerful representation. They need people who are sharp-elbowed politicians. This kind of... I always call Labour like an identity politics government.
Yeah.
Because all the people are there on credentials that aren't related to how they do their job.
But I think that Labour will get to the end of this term because they have got a very sizable majority.
Yeah.
It's a mile wide and an inch deep, but they have got the majority, and therefore it's going to be very difficult to get a vote of no confidence, which is how these things happen.
Yeah,
so they'll get to the end of this term, but many people thought that they would get 2 terms. It was a foregone conclusion that they would get 2 terms, but that I don't think will happen.
And I don't think Starmer will go the distance. I don't think he'll go full term.
The thing with the Labour Party, it doesn't have the mechanism that the Tories have, where they put the letters in.
And they're not as ruthless, are they?
No, they're not. But I tell you, I think there's 2 people in the cabinet that are eyeing it up.
Who's that?
I think Wes Streeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think Wes Streeting is...
He's good. He's too young,
but I think he's...
He's a political talent.
Yeah,
exactly. Give him a couple of years.
I think he's eyeing this up. I also think that while...
Not Liz Kendall.
No, yes, I think she is. I mean, I think she's an absolute awful politician. And while the rest...
Why do you say that?
Because I think she seems to be taking delight in cruelty, because when she's talking about disability benefits and she's going to send job coaches into psych wards, she seems to be enjoying saying that.
Yeah, she has a lack of empathy.
She really does. She really does. She reminds me very much of Margaret Thatcher, and she speaks like she's...
But isn't it the tough love that we need? We talked about the sickness benefits scam in the last hour. Doesn't someone have to grasp
we
the nipple?
didn't talk about sickness benefits scam. We talked about the benefit system not working for people, and
But we did say it was unaffordable, didn't we? And Liz Kendall's got to deal with that now. That's in her in tray, right?
But what Liz Kendall is doing is, I mean, she sort of cheerleaded the winter fuel allowance, which no one thinks is the right thing. She's now sort of frightening people who are disabled, to really frightening them. She was one of the first cabinet members that came out and said, "I'm voting for assisted dying." She seems to be absolutely lack of empathy, but she seems to want, she likes power. She did stand for leader and she got 7%.
I mean, I've interviewed her a couple of times and I think she's a very nice lady. I think she's got a difficult department and a hard brief. But, of course, Lisa, you're entitled to your views and you've outlined why you feel strongly about Liz Kendall. Peter, we just have to sort of brace ourselves for the next 4 years. I mean, where do you see the party going? My suspicion is that Starmer will shift to the right in order to survive, because he is a sort of... what was that character in the Matrix, the shapeshifter? Is that what you call it?
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, he'll just become like one of the
very
gremlins.
generous assessment of Starmer.
Probably is. But the guy is, he's no stranger to a U-turn. I think he'll shift to the right in order to save his own back. I mean, already this week he was criticising open borders, which is quite a change in tone.
Well, he did, but he blamed it on Brexit, which was a working-class revolution, and he also blamed it on the Tories. So he might spin the narrative a little bit, but he never owns the issues, and he never...
That's the point.
He never owns the issues within the Labour
I think Keir Starmer is going to become Nigel Starmer in the next 4 years.
That's never going to happen.
That's how pragmatic he is, Linda, and that's, in my opinion, how shallow he is.
I think the difficulty he's got is that he lacks a straightforward vision. So we've just seen a public sector budget by a public sector Prime Minister But before the election, in the campaigning period, we almost saw him cozying up to the ideals of Margaret Thatcher, and I can be entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I'm in the Labour Party, but I can be the party of business. And the problem is, he's got a very, very difficult path to weave there when it comes to forming a strong narrative that gives him substance with the potential voter and the public. I think they distrust him because of it.
Fascinating stuff. Well, look, I think you'll agree my pundits are on fire tonight. We've got the Sun on Sunday here, we've got the Sunday Times and the Telegraph, all with big stories. The BBC's Greg Wallace, Corrie Starr fired over a sex lie, and more on assisted dying. So listen, those are tomorrow's papers, big front pages. I'll get them to you next.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Donna Ida, who joins us now. And Donna, you look spectacular in your gorgeous denim jumpsuit.
Thank you.
And accessories. And it's important, isn't it, sometimes, just to keep things simple?
I always keep things simple. I travel a lot, I work long hours, and I don't want to think too much about what I'm wearing. So for me, one and done is perfect. Good accessories, fresh hair, nice makeup, and you can go anywhere, including GB News when you didn't know what was happening.
There we go.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Straight off the plane.
Can we ask you some of our top denim questions?
Yes.
Because Stephen Dixon, the presenter of The Breakfast Show who's just on, said that double denim to him is an absolute no-go.
Oh, what does he
Is that true?
Don't have him on again, darling.
OK. We're telling me fact.
I love double denim.
Really?
I love it. I think it is so cool.
Does it have to be a different
I was going
tones?
to say double denim, same colour.
Or same
I
tones?
like the... For me, I actually do like the same. Think Saint Laurent 70s. There's an amazing one that we're doing that's going to look great on you in the new season. The Joan Jean, we've got the City Slicker shirt. Oh, it's amazing. If it's done well, it's perfect. And I like it in a paler blue, but a good mid to dark. Very chic.
Yeah, you go.
No, well, I was just thinking, little old me, not quite sure
You'd look amazing,
what to wear
wouldn't
this
it?
morning. How
was a
do
bit
guys
stressed.
pull off denim?
For me, if I was dressing you, I would have put you in a pair of jeans this morning with his amazing jumper. Gorgeous watch.
Black, blue?
Black denim, I do like. Men don't like it so much. Men like charcoal denim.
Oh, I don't like grey.
Charcoal. I love grey, and the best seller for men is charcoal denim.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, more front pages are in. What have we got to Harry? Where should we go first? The Sunday Telegraph. I blew the whistle on Wallace, but nothing was done. UK was warned of Russian meddling over Chagos. And Starmer accused of bringing Khan to heel as Labour rift worsens. Also, business confidence at lowest level since lockdowns. Sunday Times now. Dying bill piles pressure on courts and the NHS. BBC was warned about Wallace sexism in 2017. Rebel forces push into Aleppo. And will Musk fling Farage $100 million? Labour and Tory supporters will hope this is fake news. Elon Musk has already declared war on Sir Keir Starmer, and last week suggested that Nigel Farage's Reform Party would form the next government. The world's richest man may now be about to put his money where his mouth is. OK, well, let's get reaction from tonight's top pundits. We have Lisa McKenzie, Peter Lloyd and Linda Jubilee. Any of these stories that particularly catch your eye? I mean, Elon Musk...
that's the one I like.
I like that story.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think about that? Do we feel comfortable about an American citizen influencing British politics like that?
Not really, but I do enjoy the beef. So so not really, because he's kind of like a James Bond bad guy, isn't he? He's like owns the world and whatever. And
he needs a cat on his lap.
Space, you know, he's got a space program and a media. You know, I like the bad guyness of him, but I really like the beef, and I really like that Keir Starmer can't take the beef with him. You know, he's like personalised, really personal.
Are we not being a bit hard on Keir Starmer tonight? I mean, this is a guy that's doing his best. You know, he's won an election. Why, Peter? Why can't we give the guy a chance?
Because he is an inveterate liar.
Really?
He has lied consistently.
But isn't that because he's a politician? And don't they all do that?
No, because I mean, yes, to some extent they do. But I think when you pledge real change, which he did repeatedly, and when he makes specific pledges, like, I'm never going to attack pensioners, and then takes away the winter fuel allowance.
I'm going to support the farmers.
I mean, that's like cruel lying, isn't it? And that's almost deception.
Well, indeed, and actually in the Commons just 2 weeks ago, he maintained that line about protecting your pay slips. Because, of course, the national insurance hike was on employers.
The whole conversation.
But the IFS have said it is a tax on workers because it'll be passed down to them. But he sort of persisted with it.
But the whole conversation about what made a worker... You know, first of all, it's what's working class, and then what makes a worker. Then it's someone who gets a pay slip, which ignores all the wealth creators in this country running small businesses that do employ people. He just ties himself in knots all the time.
Well, OK, now, look, business confidence at lowest level since lockdown. Okay?
Well, that's why.
Can we agree, Linda Jubilee, that the budget has been a disaster, OK? And we can say that Liz Truss's budget was a disaster and this has been a disaster.
What we can say here is that this was a public sector budget. It was designed to make things go a certain way in this country, as opposed that way, as opposed to that way. And what we need is a bit of time to work out how bad it's going to be, or maybe it's not going to be that bad. We haven't really had enough time. It's not fair to compare it to Liz Truss's budget. That's apples and pears. But what we do know, it's a budget that many of us don't like.
Can Labour learn on the job and become a better government? And Keir Starmer, can he become a better Prime Minister? Because they do have 4 years, don't they, Lisa?
They do, but I'm not sure that he will have the goodwill, perhaps, now. I think over the last 4 or 5 months, it's been sort of, you know...
Started with Freebiegate, didn't it?
Freebie.
Do you think he has the self-awareness, though?
No, I don't. And I also think he doesn't have good people around him who's saying to him, the political narrative here is this. Because he's not giving a political narrative. We don't know what he's about. We don't even know who he's for.
All right, well, listen, you know, he is hoping that Keir Starmer can reboot and recalibrate. Because, I mean, in many ways, this conversation has been quite harsh on him on a personal level.
I hope he's watching.
Well, he probably is, because he doesn't normally work weekends. But the thing is, look, he's going to do his best, and it's in our interest for Keir Starmer to be a successful Prime Minister.
Yes.
And when he does good stuff, then I will certainly big him up on this show. So what I'm looking for, Sir Keir, is a US trade deal with Donald Trump. That's what I'd like to have. I'd like to get taxes down, get that economy growing, please, if it's not too much to ask. Also, a few more coppers and a bit less policing of the tweets and more policing of the streets. There you go, an improvised manifesto. Who knew? Listen, let me tell you that the improvised news show Headliners is up next. I'm delighted to say that Steve N. Allen is in the host's chair. Steve, what have you got for me?
It's going to be a good one. I mean, relaunch, rebrand or whatever. We're going to be looking at what the newspapers tell us of Trump versus Starmer. Who would win? It's a popularity thing, not a fight. So we'll take bets on that as well. Do you want to know why the civil service is not doing particularly well? They have meetings where they have to talk about their feelings. That's why I go to work, is to avoid those conversations. And we'll also get stuck into the story about, you know, the Mars bar that's flat? People are obsessed for some reason. We'll talk about that as well, because people seem to care. That's all on the way with me, Leo and Nick.
Well, Steve, I enjoyed your Mars bar earlier. Thank you so much for your generosity. Listen, Steve Ed Allen and Headliners are up next. Thank you for your company. Can I just shout out to Mel, my incredible producer who worked so hard today putting together this fabulous show. This programme, and by the way, Harry as well, you do your bit. The whole team, it's a dream team, isn't it? But listen, folks, don't forget Connor. Let me tell you that we're back tomorrow, 9 till 11, for The Big Opinion, The Take at 10, Mark Meets and much more. It's a packed show. Very excited about tomorrow's show. Got people coming into the studio, all the rest of it. Thank you to the amazing Lisa, Peter and Linda. Absolute faves. Do come back soon. And Headliners is next. See you tomorrow at 9. Thank you, folks. Well done.
That was...
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the course of Sunday, we'll see some showery outbreaks of rain across the UK. Things turning colder from the north into Monday, albeit for a time because milder Atlantic air will return during the middle part of the coming week. That's the detail for the present.